We're here to share with you inspiring stories that bring to life all the little and big ways that people bring more love, joy, laughter, and humanness to everyday life. Our focus is the hunt for those little moments that refuel the human soul and reminds us what life is really all about. I invite you to sit back, enjoy the moments, enjoy the stories, the adventures, and the journeys. Hey there, welcome back to another episode of What the World Needs More Of. I am here for the very first time with a couple joining me, Diana and Micah. Thank you for both joining me in one episode here. I'm very excited to have you both.
Wow, man, we're really excited as well. The first couple, we'll take it.
Hey, you guys win the trophy here. You got the prize already, the first one. So I'm going to throw this out there. It's the question of the show. What do you all believe the world needs more of?
You want to go first?
I'll go first because I've been thinking about this since you posed that question. And the thing that just keeps coming to my mind is I think the world needs more people who believe in themselves. It just really when people believe in themselves, I think it's really amazing what they can achieve. And so I think if, with our business, that's kind of the first part of our motto is helping people believe in themselves, because that's when people start tapping into their true potential. So I think it would be amazing to see how we could change the world if more people believed in themselves and believed in their ability to succeed.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think mine just comes down to, what we get to do day-to-day life is teach people really a healthy way of living. And what I mean by that is not just what they're putting in their bodies as far as their food or activity levels, but really the choices that they're making each and every day with every choice that they're making, regardless of regardless of what they're going through, just filling their minds, filling their surroundings with positive choices and a healthy lifestyle that can not only transform their body, but also can really impact all of those people around them, their family members, their friends. It's really amazing what can happen when one person gets healthy and fit and focused, how everyone around them will be kind of just lured into wanting to be like that as well.
That's awesome. So becoming that ripple that ripples right into their community, or the catalyst for change within their own community.
That's right.
How cool. So believing in themselves and really stepping into that healthy way of living, not only for themselves, but for the community around them.
That's right.
I love it. Now, I'd love to know, what do y'all feel is your wow factor? What makes you uniquely you? And what are some of the life moments that help shape it?
You want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. I mean, that's a big question. Okay, so I kind of started from a pretty humbling background. It was just me and my mom. We went through quite a bit of struggle, the first 18 years of my life of, we moved close to 30 times. We went through multiple marriages that unfortunately had some really negative things a part of them. I just remember thinking to myself, why am I going through all this negative stuff? I just didn't understand. We had points of good, but there's a lot of negatives that happened. And, my mom marrying a man that was an alcoholic, my mom marrying a man that had some bipolar issues, and just seeing all this and going, why am I having to go through this? I just want some stability. And later in my life, then being at the point where I'm at now and being able to work with so many people around the world, it makes me so relatable in any situation that pretty much that I've dealt with, of being able to communicate with this person and go, you know what? I know how you feel. I know what it's like to not have. I know what it's like to go through that. And I think that in itself has really been kind of the wow factor of like going through so many hardships at a young age and then coming out and thriving at a later age and being able to really impact so many people. That to me is my biggest wow.
I love that. I think something special. I've always said the coolest people you meet have usually been through a lot of stuff in their life.
Yeah.
Because for some reason there's a correlation that the more stuff you have to go through, the cooler you become as a human. I don't know why it is that way. It kind of sucks that it has to be that way. Yeah. But for some reason, the people with the most soul and the most depth have usually been through the most trials, because it's what humbles them and makes them so, like you said, relatable.
Yeah, that's right.
How cool. Diana, what about you?
Well, I mean, I'll just add to what Micah said. Like, there's like, as his wife and knowing just the challenges that he's gone through, it's really one of those things when people see him and they see his external, they have no idea just kind of the challenges that he has come through in his life. Like, it's really, really remarkable. He should be on drugs. He should be in jail. You know, a lot of the people that go through what he went through, that they make negative choices, and the fact that he stepped up and chose a positive route, and then is using everything he's gone through to help others, it really is impacting and impressive.
Well, thanks.
So you're welcome. I don't know, like I feel weird saying what's my wow. I mean, I would say my wow is, I don't know if people know how much I actually I care about people and their success to my core, and I take, I think that fuels me to just always try to be better, to do better. I didn't go through as many things as Micah when I was young, but we also a very humble background, and we've together and in my own life, I've always set goals and then just tackled them, and it's been amazing to see things happen when you just don't let fear hold you back. And my motto's kind of always been, if I'm afraid of doing something, then I'll just go and do it, because then I won't be afraid of it anymore. And I've kind of done that throughout my whole life, and always thought, what's the worst that could happen, and I've been blessed with people around me that love me and care for me, and I've always just felt like, what is the worst that could happen if I do this, and if it turns into not what I wanted, or like a failure of sorts, like what's the worst that could happen? And so I guess that would set me apart from a lot of people, in that I've just gone after a lot of things and tackled a lot of goals, and it hasn't always worked out, but I just always believe that God has a path, and even if things don't work out as they're supposed to, he's going to show you which door to go through and which steps he wants you to take next.
And I'm going to add on to yours, because you added on to mine. So I really describe Diana's wow as kind of a mixture of, and I'm proudly saying this as a husband, but even before you were my wife, she's kind of like half Snow White, half Wonder Woman. is what she is to the core of day to day. She has this physique that was a world champion physique multiple times, which she lets me know multiple times. And then this person that has just such a caring heart, kind of like what you portrayed seeing Snow White as. So that's the best description I can give for Diana.
I love it. I love it. Wonder Woman mixed with Snow White. Now
I'm
still trying to wrap my head around that one. But
she's got the muscle and the fierceness to her, but then she sees a deer that's in need of help, and she jumps out of the car and races to save the deer. That's who she is.
Well, if she can serenade the birds, I'm impressed.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be surprised.
How fun. I love it. So here's a question for you two. What's a moment out of all these years and all the journeys and the trials, as well as all the beautiful and greatness that's happened, what's a moment that made you feel incredibly humble?
Oh gosh, this one's really easy for me. Last October, we went to Haiti, and we have been blessed to be able to help. And we have a school of children over there that we sponsor, and we have for quite a few years. And to be able to see these children in person, to be able to hug them, to show them that I love them, and vice versa, it was so life-changing, humbling to me, so joyful. It was probably one of the best days of my entire life, other than marrying my wife. So that would be the moment for me as far as humbling moment.
Yeah, that was a big day. Well, I've gone to Haiti for several years, and so that was his first time coming down and being able to actually see the kids and hang out with them. And it was um, for me, it is humbling to know that we get to have the chance to have an impact on them. And the other thing I would say that's humbling on a regular basis, that just it never gets old, and it's why we love what we do, is when when you have the ability to make a positive impact on someone's life, and when they tell you, like, this changed me in these ways. It brings up a client of mine who I didn't know this till a couple years after. She went through a transformation, and she didn't tell me this till about 2 years after her first transformation, and she had been contemplating suicide when she first signed up and decided that she saw someone who had success with Hitch Fit, and she signed up, and I had the chance to take her through that. And a couple years later, she was like, "You don't understand. Like, I was on the verge of committing suicide and thinking that nobody cared, that nothing I was doing mattered." And she's like, and this changed my life. She's actually one of our trainers now, and she's in her 60s. And so for me, I remember just reading that message and just having a meltdown and just crying, just because I couldn't even believe that how could I have just the opportunity to have an impact like that. And she's still here, and she's doing so well, and now she's changing other people's lives. So that is extremely humbling to me.
I don't think, we go through each day and we got to do what we have to do to, pay our bills, and we got to work, and we, with relationships. But I think, regardless of who you meet, I think it's really important to always, just give a smile, say hello, be kind. You just never know what someone is going through. And your words or your actions could be the reason of potentially changing someone's life, or in a situation like this, maybe even saving someone's life.
It's so true and so powerful. I think we've mentioned it in a few different episodes now, but I forget which episode number it was. There was a gentleman who shared a story where he said there was a book actually written about this, about survivors. And it's the concept of, there was this man who was going through this really rough time in his life, and he got on the bus in San Francisco and was crying, and then got on the trolley and was crying, and then walked a few miles and was crying, and walked his way crying all the way to the bridge and threw himself off the bridge.
And no one said a word.
Well, what was wild is he lived. And so he lived. He lived, and he wrote a whole book about the fact that if one person would have said, "Yo, what's up with you?" or "What's going on?" or "Hey, you doing okay?" If one person would have said something and just cared for a half second, he wouldn't have done it. And,
wow.
and the person who shared the story said it was still his responsibility to not throw himself off the bridge. And just that moment, like you said, the moment of caring, the moment of asking, the moment of saying hello, or giving someone a smile, or just reaching into their world for a moment to recognize and acknowledge them can transform someone's entire world. How special.
Yeah.
How
That's
special.
awesome.
Wow.
Now here's a crazy question. What's an awe-inspiring moment that you've experienced along the way?
You want to go first?
I would say awe-inspiring. Let's see. I when I think awe-inspiring, I think of nature, and I think of beauty, and I think of things just big and small that blow me away every single day. We've had a chance to do quite a bit of traveling, and I think every single place that I go, there's so many unique things, just from the little tiny things to the big things. I think of the mountain. We got to go to Whistler just a couple months ago, and I just was sitting there, I just can't believe the creation, and just the people and the diversity of people, and just to be, I think that's what inspires me. Like when I think of awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I mean, in situations, I always look at like the core of an individual, not just the success of an individual or whatnot, but kind of what really makes them tick and how they utilize their platforms. So I'm always like looking on social media and whatnot, and I see so much. There's a lot of negativity. It's really easy to get into that negative tone, and then you'll see those couple highlights of individuals that are out there just with a constant positive. You know that they're going through probably some negativity in their life of some sort, and the day-to-day life, there's unexpecteds and uncontrollables that happen all the time, but they always remain positive. And I think I've been always so inspired by that type of person, whether it be someone who is famous or someone that just is a day-to-day person, and how they're living and conducting their lives. I'm always really inspired by that, and always keep really focused on trying to become an even better person through that. And again, just touching back on the fact we have no idea who we may potentially impact, and that message that you put out, for me, that's kind of just a really, to the core and uninspiring type of situation of just really being able to be a light in someone's darkness.
I love that. I can't remember the quote. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It was the concept of so many people try to be, I think, a light. Hold on one second. It's a good one, and it fits perfectly here. Here it is. Everyone wants to be the sun to brighten up someone's life, but why not be the moon to shine on someone's darkest hour?
Wow.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
Isn't that beautiful? I
That
think
is.
it relates right in what you were saying to you don't know what they're going through, and to choose to be the moon, to show up in someone's darkest hour, but to shed light on it and to bring some goodness into it. And
right.
the ability to still experience that even in the middle of your own stuff and hardships.
Yep.
It's hard. There's a trickiness to this. We met a gentleman this last weekend. We were speaking in San Francisco, and his name was Ashanti, and he goes to high schools, and he hands out this little postcard, and on the postcard, it only has 5 things. And the first big square, it says, draw a picture of the mask that you wear and the mask that you show to people. And so, he hands them out to high schoolers, and they all draw a mask or whatever they want and write down words that describe what they show to people. Happy, smart, loving, caring, funny, silly, whatever they pick. And he goes, now next to it, in this next big box, draw a picture of the mask that's the real you underneath it. What do you not show to people?
Wow.
And that's where things get interesting. Because you have high school kids, sometimes 14 all the way to 20, something years old, depending on the high school and range. And you have these young people who write such deep things on this second section. It's the stuff that they don't really show people. And so what's interesting is the ability to still express what's real and raw and genuine, but to do it from a place where you can still find the light in it, which isn't always easy.
Yeah.
But I think, it does, like you said, it's awe-inspiring when you see someone who's sitting in the hospital, but still is bringing some type of life from that moment to share, or some lesson or some insight or just a little love. Just like, hey, I'm going through some stuff. I hope you're all having a good day. Simple as that. Like, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be foofy. It doesn't have to be like unicorn sprinkle rainbows, but it's just like, hey, someone who chooses to still bring a little good out of whatever they're going through. I agree with you. That is awe-inspiring. The episode, right before you, is a young couple who I was telling you about before we started here, and people hopefully have listened to, where the wife of the young couple has been through her second double lung transplant.
Wow.
And the reason I had them on is I follow them on Instagram, and there's some pretty graphic pictures they show of, tubes coming out of her body and all kinds of stuff. And there's just the most beautiful thing is their ability to express joy every day. And he was saying as a business consultant that it taught him how to just live in the moment, how to live for now, and realize like this might be the last second we're ever this healthy or ever this happy or ever this whatever. It's like, wow. And so, like you said, that is awe-inspiring to meet young people like that and old people like that too, but people who can find that space to still bring the goodness out of wherever they are without making it, I would say foo-foo or froofy. Like they're not dressing it up like it's easy or fun or everything's, cheerio over here. They're saying, hey, this kind of sucks, but here's the good of it. And I think that's beautiful. I really love that. So
Yeah.
we're going to switch gears. What's your greatest fear?
Go ahead.
Oh, fear.
No one's fighting over this one. You go.
My goodness. Let's see. Biggest fear. I mean, you can always go to like, being on a wire, walking across, 500 feet in the air type of situation. There's that level of fear, but then I think there's more of an inner core fear. What is my fear?
Well, I'll be honest. That's the first time on this show we've heard that fear, so that's considerably valid.
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty scary. 500 feet, no parachute on a wire,
getting
because
better.
I don't tightrope, so that would be a little scary. Let's see. I'm having troubles with fear.
Well, I would say for me, when I think of the things that would make me the most afraid would be not missing out on losing out on something that I was supposed to do that was part of my purpose or God's plan for my life, because I didn't step out and do it because fear was holding me back. My biggest fear is getting regretting, getting to a place and wondering, what if I had done this? What if I had taken that step? And so I think my biggest fear would be having either gifts or talents or something that I didn't pour out there and try to give. My goal is I want to get to the end of life and feel I want to have poured out every single thing that I could possibly have poured out. And so, I grew up I was very painfully shy when I was a kid. And it's been a journey just to come out of my shell and do things. And the more things that I've done, it's made me bolder and it's made me stronger, but I still do have that fear of I think everybody has the fear of not being enough or not giving enough or not doing enough. And that's probably the root of it. But I feel like my fears are ones that propel me forward more than hold me back for the most part. And I think a lot of people, it's the opposite. The greatest fears may hold them back. And if you can shift the fear and use it as something that propels you forward instead of holds you back, I think that can be a game changer.
Okay, so mine probably is I think my biggest fear at this particular moment would be, I think sharing my story in entirety. It's a story that very few people know, just probably a handful of people. People know shades of it, but they don't know the entirety of the story. And so we're in the midst of piecing this all together. So there is a little bit of fear. There's some anxiety with it and whatnot, just because, you're going back into a place that you've really, don't want to have to go back to, and trying to get to a place of full healness and full forgiveness and all the stuff that comes with all of that. So for me, it's going through that all again. I know I'll come out stronger, but there's fear there. And I think that the biggest reward will be the fact that I know that it will help others. And so by sharing it to the core, I know that other people's lives will be saved. And so, but there is some fear with it. And that probably at this moment in my life is probably where the biggest fear is.
I can see how it can be an unsettling feeling, and so often I've learned it's the parts of ourselves that we judge the most, the parts that we think are ugly or mushy or gross or bad or wrong or not as good as we wanted them to be, and a lot of times those parts are the parts that other people are struggling this exact same way.
Yeah.
There was someone on one of the first couple episodes who said, his thought is what the world needs more of is transparency.
Yeah.
He says, if you've never screwed up or messed up or just done something really dumb or stupid, he's like, I don't know how I could relate to you as a human.
Yeah, true.
He's like, I'm sure there's some unicorn out there who's never done anything, but I don't know I'd relate to that human. He's like, for the rest of us, tell me where you've totally royally effed up in your life.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I've probably done the same thing once or twice. And
Yeah, that's
I
true.
ain't even mad at you about it. I just want to know you're real.
That's
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
We were laughing, and he says, the more transparency we have in this age where there's so many masks, as we talked about, and so much, positioning of who we are and what we're like and all this jazz. He goes, the more transparency, the more all of us can really just be ourselves and realize, hey, people are going through similar struggles as you.
Yep.
You're not alone. You're not the only person who's ever done it. And you probably won't be the last, but at the same time, you can be someone who makes other people feel whole in their process and go, dang, someone else has been through that. I'm not alone. Phew.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you take the pressure off them, like you said, just by sharing more of who you are. But I can certainly see the fear in that. From fear to excitement, what are y'all most excited about in your future?
Oh man. I mean, I'm just excited to see where it actually goes. I'm a very in the moment person. And so when you're referring back to, the couple and living in the moment, I think by going through as much garbage as I went through, I've really got to a point where like every day I wake up, and I mean, I'm a pretty happy person every single day, just to be blessed in where I'm at and what I get to do. I'm very grateful for all of that. So, for me, it's just, it's what is about to happen, and then embracing that in general, not only from a business standpoint, but I think even more of my motto has always been, I want to help transform as many people's lives as possible until the day I die. And that is really where my fuel comes from, where my passion comes from, and my focus is, and the people that I get to meet, the relationships that I make, my focus, and they will know that is what I want to do, and hopefully I can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I think the things that excite us is just like we see doors opening, and just in different parts of our lives. Like we've always been focused on transformation, but it's kind of evolving into helping people transform in so many more ways than just the physical side of things. And we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary of our business, and it feels like there's just momentum happening in so many realms of our world, with Micah like preparing to like finally feeling the release that it's time to really share his full story. And when that timing is right, it's like there's an excitement. It's like you said, there's the fear, but there's the excitement of how many people it's going to help with their healing process. And I think it's extremely exciting to think about being able to be a part of that.
How cool and how fun. What a journey and exploration process that'll be. I'm excited to hear how it rolls out.
Oh, thank you.
Now, we're going to switch gears to the second part of our show. We call it Nuts and Bolts. This is the tactical, practical, applicable stuff people can take and immediately apply in their day-to-day life. And so the very first question is, where do you all spend the majority of your thoughts and time and life each day as of right now?
Let's see, where I spend a lot of my thoughts, I think, is I start my day with we have what we call a war room, and it's our prayer room, and it's literally walls of people that we're praying for, and scriptures, and just dreams and goals that we just kind of surrender to God and say, hey, take us wherever we're supposed to go. So I start my day there, and for me, it's just, I'm obviously not perfect with it. That's where I try to start my day. It's a game changer with where my thoughts stay throughout the day, because as you can imagine, we've been in business for 10 years, and so there's always things that come up, and I find like when I focus my thoughts there and knowing that there's a bigger purpose, it just keeps me in a positive place no matter what hits come, no matter what kind of pruning comes. I know that there's always a bigger purpose, and that we'll always get through it. So that's where I like to keep my thoughts and my focus for the day. Where are your thoughts?
Well, I think we have a lot of control of what we think and our surroundings. And I always say, you got to surround yourself with good people and good circles, even if it's very few people, and maybe you're going solo for a little while until you find those people, but put yourself in positive places, good positive people, and and positive things. And you have those three things in your life, and everything really comes together. So I wake up, I'm a very early riser. I'm really strong in the morning, and as it gets later in the night, I fade. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not even 40, and I'm already like I'm 80 years old and going to bed at like 9 o'clock at night. But I wake up at 4 o'clock and sometimes earlier, and I do this because there's zero distractions. I can wake up and it's absolutely calm, and there's nothing going through my mind except for waking up happy, knowing that I'm healthy. I pray about the things that I'm blessed with. What can I do to help other people? And that's where my day always starts. And then I take each day as its own. I make as many positive choices as I can, regardless of what uncontrollables come into my life or what I call curveballs. You got to just learn to hit the curveball, right? It's not always going to be a fastball right down the plate. You got to learn to hit the curveball, and curveballs will come all of the time. And so that's how I take each and every single day. And every choice that I make, I try to make a good one in not only, helping my family and whatnot, but also impacting other people's lives, and me smiling, me saying hello to that random girl that may have crossed, that's helping me with cleaning our gym, or giving us some food at the restaurant or whatnot. Just, you never know what those people are going through. And I've said this a few times on this podcast, but like, it's just about being good to others and making good choices in your own life. That's what it comes down to me.
Mm-hmm. And here's a question, whether it's in the prayer war room, which I like that concept, or it's out being good to humans around you, what would y'all say is a key to your success in all this?
I think the key has been being intentional, because I see where we were 10 years ago and I see where we are today, and it's been being intentional about the choices that we're making, because like looking at things from a positive viewpoint, even if it's a negative thing that comes up. 10 years ago, I can't tell you that I was like, oh, hey, maybe there's a positive. And I also can't say that right now in our, like, something negative happens and we're like, oh, hey, that's positive. Like it takes really being intentional, and turning a negative into a positive thought, a habit. So I think that's been one of the keys to success for us. And we also, we have each other to remind each other of that, of just getting your thoughts and your emotions back on track as quickly as possible, because we're human. And so one thing that we just try to work on is what is that response? And even if we kind of we're here to try to be a rock in other people's lives, so that means we have to be really solid in our own. And part of trying to be more solid, I think, is just been having better responses and better reactions. And if we go to a negative reaction, how quickly can we turn back? How quickly can we get ourselves back to a positive place, so that we are that firm foundation, that strong rock that other people can lean on and can turn to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in you need to practice what you preach, and you need to walk the walk, not just talk it. For me, it is legitimately all these people that I'm out there trying to help, and the information and education that I'm giving them. I learned this through my own practices. And so it was literally like, okay, this is how I walk. This is how I live my life. And I got all the garbage that I went through. I was able to finally get to a place of thriving and happiness. So it may take people a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, whatever it may be that they're going through, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a way to get out of that. And, just surrounding yourself, positive people, places, things, and just striving each day to become a better person, and put those people around you that are positive. And ultimately in time, you're going to get to that place of not just happiness of those highs and those lows, but foundational joy. Because joy and happiness to me are two very different things. Joy is something that is very foundational, and that's what I strive to have and continue to have, and to fill into others.
I love it. I love it. So we've come to our final question, which is, what is one actionable tip to help others achieve or experience this kind of success in their day-to-day life?
I would say an actionable thing that people can do immediately is to change whatever their self-talk is. If they're finding that their life is heading in a direction that they're not, that isn't the way that they want it to go, I would say listen to the things that come out of your mouth, maybe journal and see what are the things that are in your mind that you're letting be the story that you're telling yourself, and then change that story. Like stop the self-talk, the negative self-talk, and replace it with something that is positive. And even if you don't believe that that's true yet, just by changing the things that they're saying to themselves and those negative thoughts, that's the thing I think helps people start believing in themselves and starting to move forward and make the choices and the right decisions. It's just, I've seen that so often with people is they're telling themselves something and then wondering why that's what's happening in their life. So if life is not going in the direction you want it to go, then take a look at what you're saying and make a change in it.
I love that. One thing I'll throw in there, there's a 3-part little system I heard that helped people, like it's not even an acronym, it's just 3 things. And I think it was 3 A's. It's acknowledge the thought. So a lot of times we don't even acknowledge a thought, or we get mad that it's there and we try to ignore it or avoid it. And it's like, no, acknowledge it. Notice that it's there. Second, find a way to appreciate it. Like, I'm sure there's some reason, even if I have to dig deep and figure out what's one reason why this thought could be around, and it might be helpful in my life somewhere, even though it doesn't seem like it, but appreciate it for some reason, for some way, shape, or form. And then the final is adjust it. Acknowledge it, appreciate it, and adjust it. And for some reason, those little steps help greatly in that process you're describing, which is adjusting your self-talk. And I like what you said, the process of taking time to write it down. For journal every thought you have for a day. Just capture them, every thought. And at the end of the day, count them and see how you're doing. And then, hopefully use those little 3 steps of appreciate or acknowledge that they're there, appreciate whatever goodness they brought in your life in some way, shape, or form, even if you have to make it up, but appreciate them and then adjust them and find your way to that self-talk that really supports you. I love that, Dana.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. Good.
For me, I'm gonna kind of twist it a little bit. I think one of the biggest things that people can do to find their own happiness, joy, and whatnot is to actually give back to others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so a lot of people think, I got to give money. It's not a money thing. A lot of times it's just a time thing. You go out and you really apply yourself to go and meet these people that may be going through a lot worse than you. And then you realize, what, my life's not so bad. I have a lot to be blessed about. Going and help somebody who doesn't have food, get some food. We went over to Haiti and saw how people are living and just the daily survival of where am I going to find some rice? Where am I going to find some water? It puts life in perspective. And we get out of our little bubble. We get out of our little circle that we've created for ourselves and then realize, what? Like, I'm going through a lot, but there's some people out there that are going through a lot worse than I am. And by giving back in some sort of fashion, I can heal myself and it can also heal them. And that's what it's about to me.
I love that.
Good.
I agree. So adjusting the self-talk, writing down those words, acknowledging them, appreciating them, and adjusting them, and then finding time to give back to others. And that process of giving to others is one of the greatest gifts. Not only you'll give to them, but you'll give to yourself in the process.
Yep.
That's right.
I love it. Well, thank you for joining us. If you'd like to know more about these 2 wonderful humans, make sure to go to the show notes. It'll have their website and blog and Instagram handles and all the greatness of where you can tap into more of what they're up to. I would only assume that you all have a gym.
Yes,
yes, we
have
do.
3 of them.
I was picking up the vibe in the conversation.
We work out here and there.
Yeah, a little bit.
and so make sure to read their bios. Check out everything they've accomplished. Make sure to learn more about what they're up to in their business. And congratulations on the 10-year mark. I've heard it said that 96% of businesses don't ever make it to see their 10th year. So if you guys have done that, congratulations.
Thank you.
For being one of the 4% on earth
Yes.
that make
All right.
it. Y'all are crushing it.
Nice.
And thank you both so much for taking time to share all these thoughts. I have a page and a half of notes over here. So I really appreciate all the thoughts and time and love and insights you shared with everyone here.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank
We
you, Jared.
appreciate you too. Thank you.
Of course. And for everyone tuning in, if you love this episode, make sure to click subscribe. Make sure to share it with a friend or family member who you know needs to hear it. And we look forward to seeing you all next episode.